Hello and welcome back to Everyone Watches Women's Tennis, a tennis podcast that is solely focused on the women's game, giving you regular updates about what is taking place on the WTA Tour, both on and off the court. Hi everyone, welcome back as per usual. Today I just have a quick little fun, I say quick, I haven't finished recording, maybe it's not going to be quick at all, episode for you because Wimbledon ended recently. It means we kind of have to refresh our heads, our minds, and then start moving on to a different part of the season, which I mentioned last episode is the North American hard court swing. And so today I'll just be going through some of the news that has been announced within the WTA Tour this week. So going from the winners of the two 250 level clay tournaments that occurred in the past week to retirement announcements. And then once we go through all of that list of quick news, I'll also just do a brief preview of this week's two tournaments. So the Washington DC Open and the Prague Open. And those are the first two hard court tournaments after Wimbledon. Okay, so just getting into news around the WTA Tour, I'm just going to start on a happy note, and you'll realize as I go through the different news, it'll start off on a high and then it'll probably end on a not so high. So we'll start off on some highs, quite a few highs, and then we'll end on a couple of lows as well. So as I mentioned, right after Wimbledon, there are some tournaments on clay that I held. One was in Hamburg, Germany, and the other one was in Iasi, Romania. And with having two tournaments, it also means we have two tournament winners, which is always great news. So starting off in Hamburg, we have Louise Boisson winning her first WTA title. And this was down at the 250 level on the clay, as I mentioned, and she's reaching more and more milestones. And I guess clay is her thing because that French Open performance and then winning her first WTA title on clay. So great to see that. With that result as well, she jumps to number 44 in the live rankings. And just a quick overview, a lot of this news I'll just be doing fast because it's something always happening. If I go too in depth, we would be here forever. I didn't get the chance to watch the final fully. It did start a bit earlier here in Australia than other matches typically do in Europe for us. So I was following the scoreline, but I didn't get to watch the full match. But from what I did follow, I saw that Louise was down a double break in the first set and she came back to win that match in straight sets. So she was down a double break in the first set and then she was also down a break in the second set, but she was still able to overturn that and win the match in straight sets. So congratulations to her. It's nice to see her making steady progress, especially on that French Open performance. And then moving on to the second tournament winner, we have Irina Camelia Begu, who won her sixth WTA title, and it was done on home soil in Iasi, Romania, against Swiss Jill Teichmann, and she won that match 6-love, 7-5. I don't have too much to say about that match, but it's always nice seeing a player win a title when they're in their home country or even their home city or town. For this tournament, I was actually hoping for an all-Romanian final just to guarantee that there'd be a Romanian winner, but we got one regardless. Then third news I've got for you is Sloane Stephens, former Grand Slam champion, US Open 2017. She was awarded the 2025 Muhammad Ali Sports Humanitarian Award at the annual ESPYs. And for those that don't know what ESPY stands for, it's Excellence in Sports Performance Yearly Awards. So essentially the Oscars of sports. She was recognized for the impact she's making off the court with her Sloane Stephens Foundation that helps shape with her Sloane Stephens Foundation. And this foundation, what it does, I would actually read off the website because I think it's always with foundations or with like brands and companies, sometimes the best source is to go to their website and see what the brand actually says about themselves. So the Sloane Stephens Foundation, it helps shape constructive futures for youth by providing enhanced educational opportunities and encouraging healthy, active lifestyles through tennis. And with Sloane, for like the past year and a bit, I have been seeing her a lot more off the court, still involved in tennis, but doing a lot more advocacy for children and advocacy for women in tennis as well. So great to see that, because I think with sport, you have to, obviously, achievements on the court mean a lot. You've worked your whole life for it. But I think you have to become well-rounded as a person, because this sport that you play, this job that you have, it's not forever. And when you step off the court, who are you as a person? Like, what do you do with your success? So it's always nice to see when players go beyond themselves or look at beyond themselves as tennis players. And then the fourth one, this deserves some fanfare. Venus Williams, I'll say 45-year-old, even though age doesn't really matter. 45-year-old Venus Williams, legend, all-time great, 7-time singles Grand Slam champion, will be back on the court. She received a wild card to the Washington, D.C. Open and will be competing for the first time in about 16 months. And she'll be competing in both the singles and doubles with Hailey Baptiste. So that's going to be great to see. More on that later, since I will be doing a preview of the DC Open. Then now we're getting to so that was all the good stuff. And then now we're just going through some news that's, not great. We'll start off here with Eugenie Bouchard will be retiring. She announced that she'll be retiring from professional tennis in the next month or so. She announced that her final tournament will be at the Montreal Open, also known as the Canadian Open. I'll use those interchangeably. Yeah, it'll be her last tournament. She received a wild card, so she will play the first round, and then hopefully she can win as many matches as possible. It's a fitting end, considering she was born in Montreal, Canada, and that she'll be able to end her career on her terms and be finishing it off on home soil. But on Eugenie Bouchard, she made her mark on the tennis world in about 2014. I remember watching this, actually, by making the semifinals of that year's Australian Open. So she made the semifinals of the Australian Open as well as the French Open, and then later made the Wimbledon final, but falling short of the title to Petra Kvitova. I think with Eugenie, her career never hit the heights that we expected of it due to coaching changes, concussions, and just being out of form. But she did make an impact that year of 2014. Even the year before, coming into 2014, she was voted WTA Newcomer of the Year. But great and impactful career nonetheless. And she is credited to have paved the way for Canadian tennis for players such as Bianca Andreescu and Leylah Fernandez. Then moving on to the next bit of news, Zhang Qingwen announced that she won't be playing for a short while. There's no specific date or time period, but she recently had elbow surgery. And this was due to a persistent right elbow injury, which makes sense because we've seen her playing with an elbow brace / compression sleeve thing since the Australian Open. And her performances as well kind of line up with having pain in her elbow. She's had some great performances, but she also hasn't hit the heights that she has in the past couple of years. What I'm trying to say is she hasn't played her best tennis consistently this year. So she will be out of the US Open for sure. But yes, just wishing her a very speedy recovery for sure. And then lastly, with the news that we have around the tour, Ons Jabeur, former world number 2 and 3-time Grand Slam runner-up, announced that she'll be taking a break from professional tennis, citing that she hasn't felt happy on a court for some time now. And it's very sad to hear, especially coming from one of the most joyous players on the court. But it also makes sense considering the injuries that she's dealt with past couple of years. And in that post she made about taking a break, she said there's also been other challenges that we don't know of. So it's an indefinite break. We're not sure how long she'll be out for, but wishing Ons the best. I don't think anyone has a bad thing to say about her. But yeah, wishing her the best, and hopefully she can come back soon and win a Grand Slam. Fingers crossed. I say that tentatively, but I'm still hopeful. Always hopeful. Would Ons be one of the best players to not have won a slam? Not sure. I'll do my research on that. I'll bring it back to you guys. I'll report back. And then some further news to do with the tour, the Canada Open. Obviously, once that tournament comes around, I'll discuss it in more depth. But at the moment, we've had a couple of players pull out, some pretty big names as well. So I'll just quickly go through them. We'll start with the ones that I've already mentioned that aren't playing for a while anyway. So that's Zhang Qinwen and Ons Jabeur. And then we also have Paula Badosa, who pulled out due to injury. It's the back issue, of course. Her back has caused her issues for I don't know how many years, but just before Wimbledon, she suffered a further tear in her lower back. So that's what's keeping her out of the next couple of tournaments. Hopefully she'll be ready by US Open. I'm quite sad for Paula because last year, she performed really well. And that's basically what propelled her back to the top 10. So knowing you can't play also means knowing that you're going to drop points and maybe your ranking as well, which means when you do come back to play, you might not be seeded or you'll be seeded in uncomfortable places. And then the last player, as I record right now, who's pulled out is world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka. She announced that she's pulling out, citing fatigue, which again makes sense considering she's played 56 matches so far this year, which is the highest of anyone in the top 50. And I think her fatigue is both physical and mental. And as the US Open champion, defending champion, especially most likely going against a crowd that's not going to like you due to that French Open and the French Open comments, she probably has to mentally prepare herself, but also be physically at her peak because she's going to have to fight to retain her US Open crown. But on that not so nice, sad news, there is a flip to it. Like, it's hard hearing and it's sad hearing when players have to pull out due to injury or can't play, especially these like mandatory tournaments because they're big opportunities to win big titles. But it does provide an opportunity for other players, especially those who would have had to play qualifiers, to make it through to the main draw without having to go through that process. And it helps them as well because then they might actually have a better run at the tournament since they won't have to play qualifiers a few days beforehand. Moving on to the Prague Open, which obviously is the capital city of Czechia, also known as the Czech Republic. This is a 250 level tournament, and it's held, I know I call this part of the year the North American hardcourt swing, but this is a tournament that's outside of that continent. Just going through it quickly, I'm not going to do any like going draw by draw predictions, none of that. I just want to let you know that there's a tournament on and just give you a brief overview about the top seeds, defending champion, and who I think is going to take out the title. I will say, I think these like lower levels, so the 250s and the 500, I think they're more difficult to predict than Grand Slams and 1,000 level tournaments because the whole field isn't there, and sometimes top 10 players aren't there. So you don't have a clear favorite. You have seeds, but you could have someone who's seeded number 1 but ranked 20 and are in a bad patch of form. So it's hard to make a call on that. Anyway, so for Prague Open, we've got the top seeds. Sorry, before I go into the top seeds, a couple of them pulled out. So some of the numbers are a bit weird because there's some players that are missing, but I'll just let you know what the seeds are based on the people that played and what they were seeded, if that makes sense. So we've got Linda Noskova seeded number 1. Then we have Rebecca Stramkova seeded 2. And then we have Wang Xinyu as the 4th seed. Then Marie Buskova as the 5th seed. And then we've got Elena Gabriela Rusa, 7th seed. And then Alicia Parks, 8th seed. And Anne Lee as the 9th seed. And in this draw, we actually have 10 checks. And because the first round has already been played, moving on to the second round, we have 8 Czech players, which again, obviously makes sense. It's a home tournament. You'd always want to play in front of a home crowd. and most likely wild cards would have been given out to Czech players that wouldn't be able to make it direct into the draw. And then saying all of that, the defending champion, so 2024 champion was Magdalena, but she is not in the field. But she's actually going to be playing in Washington, D.C. So someone else will be taking over the crown, hopefully a Czech player. Like I said, I like when people win at home for the smaller tournaments, like the smaller and mid-sized tournaments. Grand Slams, I'm not too fussed. Then just quickly going into my prediction, I think Linda Noskova, again, Czech, will take the title. She's playing quite well, especially coming off the 4th round at Wimbledon. She ended up losing to Amanda Anisimova, but she made a good showing of it. It was like a 3-set battle. So that's my winner. But if, let's say, the Czech player or a Czech player doesn't take the title, I think Wang Jinyu should also take that one out. She's also played quite well. She had the final in Berlin. She didn't end up playing as well as I expected at Wimbledon, but I still think she's been in good form and her confidence is up. Then moving on to the Washington, D.C. Open, I will be watching this tournament. Again, they've already played the first round of matches. I'll still talk about the tournament as if it hasn't started, and then I'll just go through the results of the first round. So with the DC Open, I'll start with our seeds, which go from Jessica Pegula is seeded number 1, then Emma Navarro at 2. Seed number 3 is Elena Rybakina. 4th seed Clara Towson, then Magdalena Frech at seed number 5. Sophia Kenin, 6th seed, then Marta Kostyuk as the 7th seed. And to close it off, we've got Magda Linette as the 8th seed. So as you can see, based on the seeds, only one player in the top 10 is in this draw. But the field is stacked regardless. 5 Grand Slam champions in the draw, and that includes 7-time Grand Slam champion legend Venus Williams. Sorry, every time I speak about Venus, I'm hyping her up because I think she deserves a lot more fanfare. Anyway, and then obviously Naomi Osaka's won 4 Grand Slams. We have Emma Navarro, Elena Rybakina, and Sophia Kenin, who've all won 1 Grand Slam. And then last year's winner is Paula Badosa, but Paula's not playing due to injury. So again, she will not be retaining her title and there will be someone taking it over. In the draw as well, there's only one past winner, which is Jessica Pegula, and she won in 2019. And then I will quickly go through some notes that I have and just some highlights of the tournament so far, and then give you my semi-final prediction and my winner prediction. So we'll start with round 1, just going through round 1 and the matches. So round 1, the top 4 seeds get a bye, so they don't play in the first round. They just move on to the second round, which is a round of 16. So we'll start at the top. Jessica Pegula bye. Then Leila Fernandez beat Maya Joint 6-3, 6-3. Then Taylor Townsend beat Tatiana Maria 6-4, 7-5. Sophia Kenin beat Hailey Baptiste 6-3, 7-6. Then 3rd seed Lena Rybakina with a bye. Then we have 18-year-old Victoria Mboko beating Anastasia Potapova 6-2, 6-4. Then Venus Williams beat Peyton Stearns in straight sets 6-3, 6-4. Then Magdalena Frech beat Yulia Starodubtseva 6-2, 6-4. Then Magdalena beat Danielle Collins 7-5, 6-4. Then Anna Kalinskaya won in straight sets against Kamila Rakimova. That was 6-2, 6-3. And the only 3-set match of the tournament was won by Caroline Dolehide against McCartney Kessler. That scoreline was 7-6, 5-7, 6-3. Then 4th seed Clara Towson with a bye. Then Emma Raducanu beat Marta Kostyuk 7-6, 6-4. So that's the only fallen seed. We've got Naomi Osaka, who played Yulia Putintseva and beat her 6-2, 7-5. Then last match that was played was against Maria Sakkari and Katie Bolter, with Sakkari coming out on top 6-3, 6-4 and then of course Emma Navarro with a bye. So that's the field. And then those are the round of 32 or first round results. Again, like I said, I'm not going to go through the entire tournament and predict every single match. But what I'll do is give you my semi-final predictions and my finalist predictions, which I've already mentioned before. But before I predict this next round, just going to say, as I mentioned while going through the results, is we did lose one seed in Marta Kostic to Emma Raducanu in 2 pretty tight sets. Emma played very well. She was quite tenacious. Marta has just been having a horrid year, not matching the results that she had last year. Yeah, Marta's just not been having a great year. Her last win was at the Italian Open, and that's 5 tournaments ago, not counting the Italian Open. So she hasn't won in 5 games. And I think, to be honest, she would have had a difficult time winning against anyone, let alone Emma Raducanu, who's got a great new coach in her corner, but is also playing very well and is also high on confidence. It's just not a great combination for someone who's looking for their first win in a while. But I'm sure it's coming soon for Marta. And then another note is Venus Williams got through Peyton Stearns in straight sets, so 6-3, 6-4. She was moving so well, and she just looked happy to be out there and to be playing tennis. Someone said she's not here to sign autographs or take photos, she's here to play, and clearly evident. And I will say, great opponent to have in Peyton Stearns, because Peyton's been in horrid form since making the semis of the Rome Open. 3 out of the 4 tournaments that she's played recently, she's lost in the first round. So she's looking and searching for a win anywhere before that US Open comes around. And if Peyton loses in the first round of the US Open, it means that this entire year she hasn't made it past the first round of any of the majors. So she needs to get her form up very, very quick. But her best performances in Grand Slams have come at the US Open. But that's looking too far in advance, just giving her a warning. Okay, those were just some matches to note. And then just going through my semi-finalist predictions. I have got here, first semi-final is Sofia Kenin versus Rybakina. Then the second semi-final is Naomi Osaka versus Emma Navarro. And then I've predicted for Kenin to win. I'll be honest with you, I don't really have any rhyme or reason for this. It's just I believe in the Renaissance. I think it's time. I think she's been slowly and a little bit quietly building up her form, building up her game, because she's seeded again and currently ranked number 26. And once it starts clicking and working for Kenin, no one probably wants to be on the other side of the court against her. But I think at the moment, and I saw it at the French Open, she is losing in the mind to players. She's not losing based on of her tennis, because she was playing a really great game against Madison Keys at the French Open, but she was really she was not satisfied, and she also had a few match points. But her not being satisfied with her game allowed her, I think she let that creep in, and then the doubt came and she wasn't able to win off her own racket. But as I said, I believe in the Renaissance, and I think it's time for her to make a statement, make an impact, and win her first title since 2020. At least her first singles title since 2020. Okay, that is all I have to say for now. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. Don't forget to follow the podcast's Instagram, which is EWWT Podcast. And yeah. And I said last episode as well, I'll be doing a tennis 101 video as well as podcast episode. So if anyone who's listening and supporting me is confused about basically everything I talk about, and you have specific questions you want about tennis answered, shoot me a message on the Instagram, or if you have my personal contact details, just message me, and I'll note that down and bring up those questions in the videos. But again, thank you for supporting me. Bye.